Chapter 54. I quietly walked up through the gardens and into that house, quickly noticing April, bubbly as ever, pouring herself a glass of wine. Back to her normal old self. Anyone would think this woman has a memory of a sieve. How could she forget so easily what ensued last Thursday night? Either that, or she was a fantastic actress. All the same, the more I watched her bouncing around the kitchen, the more I wanted to deck her. How Marcos got stuck with a woman like this is beyond me. The door closed behind me, and April glanced up from the kitchen counter. "Oh, hey, Bun," she called happily. "How are you, honey?" Take a wild guess, bitch. "Fine, thanks, April," I said politely. "How are you? How's the packing?" "Oh, getting there," she replied, sipping her wine. "My mom's excited, of course, but there's just so much to pack." "But you are going for 3 days." Those inquisitive hazel eyes of hers studied my face. "So, how was the party? Did you have a good night?" Did I have a good night? "Yeah," I answered casually. "It was okay." "Did I miss out on much?" She wondered with a smug smile, as if she wished she was there. "Oh, just me fucking your husband all night long." There was a lot of people," I said quickly. "Highly entertaining, no doubt," she grinned with her pressing eyes on me. An image of Oksana getting drilled by that young brutish waiter flooded my mind. Not really." I shook my head. "Just a lot of intoxication." "Something I don't need," she laughed loudly. Damn straight about that. There was a knock at the door. "Oh, that's the delivery boy," April said, handing me her credit card. Suddenly, I was working. I ordered Trey Loon for us. I opened the front door and a delivery boy speckled with zits handed me bags of takeout. "Oh, thank you," I said, taking the receipt. "Have a great night," he grinned, running down to his beat-up Honda. A slight shade of nostalgia swept over me as I glanced at his sorry car. Don't at all miss those days. Walking back into the kitchen, both Henry and Marcos had now joined us. "Hey, Bunny," Marcos smiled, pouring himself some water, his damp hair sleekly swept back. "How was your weekend?" I almost erupted in laughter. "It was fine, thank you," I answered demurely, studying that cunning face of his as April began pulling the food from the bags in between us. "So, how was last night?" he managed to say with a straight face. We shared a sharp glance for a second. Marcos Almeida was the ultimate game player. It was okay, I guess," I answered, looking less than enthused. "Ha, two can play at this game, honey." He smirked, furrowing a brow. "How was your weekend?" I asked cordially. "Crazy," he sighed, sipping his water and sitting down at the table. "At least one of us is keeping this honest." "Honey, do you want the pumpkin ravioli?" April asked, piling the food onto plates. "Sure." If only this woman could read minds. "Oh, help yourself, Barney," April said, clumsily spooning pasta onto her plate. "And how was your weekend, my son?" Marcus said, throwing his strong hand onto Henry's awkward shoulder. "Oh, boring." "Why?" Marcus asked as I sat down with a small serving of fagioli salad. I had been eating all day and was beginning to look like a bore. It had to stop. "Oh, Mom wouldn't let me sleep over anyone's house." "Henry, this is happening every weekend," April said sternly. "And you've got Seth's birthday on Tuesday night, which will be a big night, and it's on a school night." That's right, Marcus concurred, looking into his face. I picked up my poor salad, watching as everybody else ate. And every now and then, I caught Marcus's dark eyes falling over my face. So I want to leave at 10 tomorrow morning, April said, looking over at Marcus as she chewed. I'll take you to the airport if you like, Marcus offered. Oh, okay, thank you, honey. April turned to me, taking a sip of her Chardonnay. So, what else happened at this party, Bon? Oh my God, bitch was digging for gossip. Not too much, actually. I also bumped into Mal and Ray. They said hi, by the way. Oh, how nice of them, April smiled, shoving that greasy pasta into her mouth. I almost jumped out of my skin as I suddenly, and very shockingly, felt a warm foot slither up between my thighs. I was totally caught off guard. Jesus. My bewildered eyes quickly glared at Marcos, whom was already piercing me with those salivating eyes, slowly chewing his food. His face again was void of any expression, looking ever so relaxed. Oh, in your element now, aren't you, honey? No wonder Marcus was filthy rich. He was the ultimate risk-taker. Oh, I am so looking forward to that dinner of theirs, April went on. They have a fabulous house. I could hardly hear any of April's words because Marcus was doing things to me again, feeling as that foot caressed in between my thighs, nudging and rubbing its hungry toes as far as they could reach. I almost broke out into laughter several times and had to conceal it with a cough. April glanced up. You okay, honey? She asked with concern. I think it's the onion, I smiled, taking a sip of water. Meanwhile, I watched Marcus sitting back in his chair, looking as smooth as silk. Fuck you. Actually, Mal just settled that house up on Toro Canyon. I stammered through my rising anxiety, saying anything to distract my mind. Oh, I heard about that. His dinner has come at the right time then. She turned to Marcus. Time to celebrate. What date is it? Marcus asked, shoving a piece of ravioli in his mouth. That foot now settled snugly between my thighs. I discreetly slid forward in my seat, allowing his toes to touch the lips of my warm sex. He glared at me with lowly eyes, rubbing his toes into it slowly, delicately. I could see by the lewd look in his eye that I'd be in for it later. April, on the other hand, continued to yap on endlessly, but everything she said fell on deaf ears, as if I was listening to her. What date is that dinner again, Bon? She questioned, glancing at me with those "you are my assistant" eyes. I sighed, feeling the blood throb through my cheeks. It's on the 31st, I think. Just before spring break, April surmised. That may be just before I go to New York for 2 weeks, Marcus added. I'll have to check with Sue. What? New York for 2 weeks? Hearing Marcus's words deflated me instantly. Oh, while you're away, April said, I thought Henry and I would go and stay at Mom's for a week. Oh, I don't want to go up to Boise, whined Henry, putting his head on the table. It's so boring. Henry, it is a week, April answered scornfully. I put my hand under the table and gently rubbed that persistent, eager foot. Much to my own relief, that frisky foot finally decided to leave my thighs. "Oh, but I've got no friends up there," Henry detested. "What am I going to do up there?" He cried sarcastically. "Hike?" "Yes," April said, exasperated. "Your grandmother's getting old, Henry. You need to spend more time with her. And the river's there. There are plenty of things to do. And it would be good for you to get out in nature, son," Marcus agreed. "Makes you a strong man. And then we can go to Hawaii for the last week," April added. "Deal?" Henry's face quickly changed. Okay. I have to make some calls," Marcus said, getting up from the table. "Excuse me." April ran her hand down his back. "Oh, okay, honey." I wanted to throw a dagger at her. I hated seeing her touch him in any way, shape, or form. But there was nothing I could do about it. I had to sit there and deal with it. Marcus quickly left the kitchen, and I cleared the table, putting the plates in the dishwasher, and then left the house. I walked out into the crisp night air, peering up at Marcus's office, noticing the dim lights glowing high up on that dark bluff. I shook my head, snickering to myself. What a weekend. What a man. Chapter 55. Entering my quarters, I checked my cell phone and saw that I had a missed call from Dale. I listened to her voice on the message bank. "Oh, darling, it's Dale. Just wondering if you'd like to join me for lunch tomorrow at noon at Panea Vino. Call me, darling." I immediately dialed her number. I was pretty much free for the 3 days without April haggling me to do things for her, unless Marcus had other plans, and I'd drop anything for him. The phone rang twice. "Hello, Dale speaking." "Oh, hello, Dale, darling," I cried, happy to hear her delighted voice. "Oh, Bunny, darling, how are you?" "I'm fine. How was your weekend?" I asked, flopping onto my bed. "Fine, darling. More to the point, how was yours?" "It was interesting, to say the least. So tell me about it tomorrow over lunch, if you're not busy, of course." "Sure. I'll see you at Panea Vino at 12. "All right, darling. Sweet dreams," she said warmly. "I need to go and put these naughty dogs to bed." "Good night, Dale," I said, glancing out over the bed of scarlet roses. "Ta-ta, darling." The phone went dead, and I rolled onto my side, slipping my feet through my blankets, exhaling sharply. I was exhausted. I decided on an early night, so I put on a movie until I could no longer keep my weary eyes open. And by that time, it was 11 p.m. Not exactly early. Feeling my eyes close quietly, I suddenly heard my gold iPhone buzz. I glanced over at my bedside table and saw the bright screen reflect against the ceiling. I reached over and grabbed it. "Are you scared of ghosts?" What the fuck? What was Marcus smoking? I typed back, squinting at the bright screen. Do you want me to be?" The cell phone quickly vibrated. "Don't freak out, but I'm going to show you something." My heart started doing cartwheels. What the fuck was he on about? My fingers anxiously fumbled over the screen. "Show me what?" Another message. "Give me a minute." I sat up in bed, wondering what the hell Marcus was up to. But before I gave my mind a chance to go into overdrive, I almost soiled myself when my seemingly solid wall of bookshelves next to my bed began revolving. I dashed out from my blankets and scurried toward the corner of the room, as far away from it as possible. Some real exorcist shit going down in here. What the fuck? I gasped, feeling the fear eat into my bones. watching the bookshelf open up into a doorway shrouded in darkness. And suddenly, Marcus's black silhouette entered through the mysterious doorway and stood beside my bed. I threw my hands into my face with relief, muttering various expletives, and flopped onto my bed, flooded with embarrassment. Marcus roared with laughter as I lay there with my buried face in the blankets, listening to his voice reverberate over my walls. I loved hearing him laugh with so much heart. No one told me James Bond was visiting tonight, I stammered through my bashful laughter, throwing a pillow at him. You scared the shit out of me. I thought I might, he laughed, crawling up onto my bed, laying himself over me. He wiped my freshly washed hair out of my face and soothed me with his tender kisses. He instantly made everything okay. I thought I was hallucinating, I cried, glancing at the clandestine doorway. So now I've got a secret passageway in my quarters or something? Something like that, he grinned, massaging his body onto mine. Remember, I said that I'd show you where you could keep your diamonds? I twisted my body around so that my face was now looking at his. Yes, I grinned deviously. I do. Moaning, he planted those big lips onto mine and grabbed my hand. Get your diamonds, he said, tugging me from the bed, and come with me. I staggered to the closet and fumbled through that old crumpled box for the Cartier necklace. I could feel Marcus's towering presence lurking over my body. How original, he snickered behind me. Oh, come on, give me a break. I mattered over my shoulder, retrieving the red box. Where else could I put them? It's cute, he said, pulling me from the floor and clasping my hand within his. We walked into that elusive doorway and trudged down a shadowy spiral stairway lit up by slithers of luminescent light, eventually being welcomed into a sleek underground lobby area. Wow, I gasped, glancing at the mottled brown marble floor, scattered with fluted leather sofas and jacquard ottomans, glowing under a dim ceiling light. And all the while I'm sleeping up in my bed, thinking I was safe. You are safe, Marcus smiled, squeezing my hand and pulling me toward a set of exquisitely carved iron doors. I feel safe with you. I gazed up into that handsomely debonair face. Marcus kissed my hand as we both watched those iron doors slowly scrape open, revealing a long brick corridor and a sturdy metal door at the far end of it. That metal door looks serious, I muttered, walking beside him, the cool, stagnant breeze lingering around our bodies. It is serious, Marcus answered. Momentarily arriving at the door, I noticed 2 cameras either side as Marcus put his thumb on the screen. I glanced at him curiously. You really don't trust anyone, do you? No, he said flatly, busily punching a code on the keypad. He turned to me. But I trust you, Bonnet. Why? I wondered. How do you know that I'm not some crazy psycho? Marcos squeezed my inquisitive face between his fingers. Because I see it in your eyes. I continued to search his face as the metal door slowly slid open. I've known people my whole life and still struggle to trust them, he said, glancing at me. But there's something about you that many others lack. And what is that exactly? I asked. Marcus shook his head slowly. I'm not sure, he answered quietly. But whatever it is It comforts me. Sometimes there are just simply no words for such things. I tenderly put my head on his shoulder, feeling a smile seep through my lips. Chapter 56. We were greeted with yet another corridor, and at the end of this one was a monstrous 24-bolt circular vault door. Oh my God! Bank of Almeida, I muttered with wide eyes. Does April know about this place? No. Marcus shook his head, the overhead light shining on his mane of dark, silky hair. And Lydia? She's only been as far as the lobby, he said, putting his full hand onto a biometric screen, followed by an eye scan. Hello, Marcus Almeida, the female computer voice said. Hello, Taiki, Marcus replied. I put a haphazard hand on Marcus's forearm. You call her Taiki? I asked incredulously. Why? Marcus gave me a coy smirk. You'll see in a moment. I laughed, listening to the vault door begin to calibrate, releasing a gush of air. Next, the steel dial began to automatically spin open. A popping sound was heard, and Marcus pulled the yard-wide, thick door open. I almost fainted, dropping my diamonds on the floor when my astonished eyes absorbed what was before me. We entered an expansive rectangular vault, the size of my quarters at least, lined with endless bars of neatly stacked gold and platinum bullion as far as the eye could see. Slabs and slabs of bundled money in many different denominations, countless display cases of jewels, several filing cabinets, and some more of those very precious-looking, ancient artifacts. And even some guns were thrown in there just for good measure. Oh, Jesus Christ, Marcos, I gasped, clutching my chest as he guided me inside the treasure hub. What do you know about the world that the rest of us don't? And I certainly see you don't trust the banks. I felt my sight grow dim. I think I need to sit down. Marcos smiled, rubbing the back of my neck. Taiki is the goddess of fortune, prosperity, and fate, and she keeps a watchful eye over this place for me. I get it now, I stammered. Somehow I began to think that Marcos was worth a lot more than what was publicly speculated. He turned to me, relieving me of my diamonds, and put them on top of a glass cabinet and held my face in his hands. Bonnet, listen to me. He spoke quietly. If anything should ever happen to me, I want you to know this place. My stomach knotted up. Why say such things, baby? I murmured, pulling his big warm body closer to mine, glinting within the golden hues. Please don't scare me. I don't ever want to imagine it. It's a big world, my lady. Shh. I interrupted him quickly, cutting off his destructive thoughts, clenching his tea in my hands. I want you to know what's in this vault, he said firmly. I need you to know where certain documents are when I'm out of town. The extra workload I was telling you about. Aha, now I understood it. Okay, this vault is where you come if you are ever in danger. Oh my God, stop scaring me, Marcos. Oh Christ, I feel the weight of the world on my shoulders, I said, dropping my head in my hands. Welcome to the club, he said, holding my head on his chest. I still can't believe you don't trust April, I muttered, making myself at home by plonking my backside onto the gold bars. I felt the coldness of them seep through my nightdress. I mean, I understand why. I couldn't trust her either. It's just strange. Marcus came and sat beside me. I've never been in love with her, he sighed quietly, holding my wrist in his big, strong hand, stroking it softly. But I love her as the mother of my son. So why marry her? I asked bluntly. I had to know. She fell pregnant, and it is Colombian tradition, he murmured. My family, my mother, is very traditional, and I love my mother. Que Dios bendiga tu spirit. He closed his eyes, pausing for a moment. My mother and April don't see eye to eye. Never have. Tu Americano, my mother says. But like the strong Colombian woman she is, she gets on with it. Why doesn't your mother come to America? I asked, putting my tired head on his shoulder. Because my mother loves Colombia, despite the painful life she endured. It's her home. She lives with my sisters in Santa Marta, a beach town on the north coast. She also says, La comida es mala. And what does that mean? I asked with intrigue. I could feel Marcus's eyes glaring at my head. Your Spanish is really not good, is it? No, I smiled, nuzzling into his neck. I had a dirty thought. But maybe you could give me some Spanish later if you like I did last night, Marcus whispered in my ear. An image of him with my pelvis in his mouth came to mind. Yeah, I moaned quietly, biting my lip, squeezing his big muscular thigh. La comida es mala means the food is bad. Mama doesn't like American food. I like your mother. I think she'd like you too. Marcus smiled, running his hand down the length of my back. Come, let's get you rigged in this system. And thus, for the next half an hour, Marcus and Taiki scanned my eyes and fingers, giving me full access to this God-forsaken place. We'll call this Bonet's honeypot. You don't think Taiki will get jealous? I muttered smugly. She might, Marcus said, closing up the vault. We finally dragged ourselves back up those spiral stairs into my bedroom. And believe me, I was more than glad to see the bookshelf rotate back into its normal position. Lying snugged up in between the bed blankets, listening to some soft music, Marcus and I talked late into the night. I lay there, listening to his deep, husky voice, filling the air, filling my heart. His big, warm body pressed up against mine, caressing me gently with his soft hands until I fell asleep in his arms.